knowing.
That's great. It's a Super Bowl green room, buddy.
It seems like it's made up.
Champion green room.
Is this real?
Dude, I'm like, the phrase running on fumes feels like it doesn't even come close to giving justice to what I feel right now. I feel dumb. I can't think straight. But like, we had to be here, like day 36 as champions. Let's freaking roll, buddy. All right, me and Tuck, we're gonna kick ass for like 20 minutes. Let's roll. I love everyone. Okay. Hey, hello. It is the Go Birds podcast presented by the Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook app. A Super Bowl champion edition of the Go Birds pod. Tucker, like we talked last night in the moment, it's like a fever dream still. I just said to you, I like running on fumes doesn't even do justice to how I feel. I can't believe I'm awake, but I also can't even imagine going to sleep. I'm so joyful, man. I'm so joyful, Tucker. I told every single caller I spoke to this morning that I love them. I love everybody. Like, I can't wait to hug a million strangers on Friday. Like, Tucker, like, this is why we do this, why we spend so much time investing our free time, our money, our lives, our happiness in a football team. It's for this. It's for today. It's so millions of people can be joyful together today, man. I'm so happy, Tuck. I love you.
I love you. Doesn't it feel sunnier today?
It does.
Like, that was my thought as I was driving into the station. First of all, the train I normally take to work got canceled due to a lack of staff. Like, no one's working this morning, I guess.
Yeah.
No one showed up.
Not a productive
to the train station at 6:30
to
to get it moving. So that's okay. That's fine. But it's just, it's so weird. Like, I remember saying when the Phillies won the Super Bowl in 2008, like when I was
World
a kid.
Series.
Yeah, the World Series.
So
My biggest shock was I had to go to school the next day. Like, I was shocked that the world kept turning.
Yeah.
Today, like, I'm happy it is. Like, I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to go to Chiggies and Pete's later and see everybody, to see the afternoon show guys. I'm happy to see Joe and Hugh. It's unreal. Like, it's just unbelievable because I think it's something we thought could happen, but the way it happened, it just hit me again this morning when I woke up. Like, we're going to have a parade on Friday.
So you mentioned 2008. We had the Halloween Friday parade in 2008. And now we're going to get the Valentine's Day Friday parade.
No need for a dinner reservation now.
Dude, the fact that it's on Friday and I know, trust me, as someone who wakes up at 3 a.m, let me tell you how happy I am it's Friday, but that, like, we can all, like, walk into the weekend together with a Super Bowl champion parade. It's just so perfect. Like, it is the perfect thing. The freaking Lombardi trophy is going to be going down Broad Street, man. And we get to be there and revel in it and celebrate it. And it's still, honestly, like, it still doesn't totally feel real. You know, I talked last night about the surreality, surrealness of the whole thing with how bad Mahomes look and how dominant they were and all that. Like, and I'm here this morning and I did a show. I played We Are the Freaking Champions to open the morning show today. And it still doesn't feel real because it's like, did we really just kick the Chiefs' ass in the Super Bowl, Tucker?
Yeah, you had no juice. Like, I said that when I was driving home last night at 12:30, 12:45, whatever it was. Like, the game against the Panthers in, like, week 11, like,
was
that
way
had
tighter.
more drama.
Yeah.
The game against
Xavier
the
Legette
Rams
doesn't drop the ball. I mean,
3 weeks ago. Like, they had games that were close, that were tight. But, I mean, the way they just dominated last night, it was over by halftime. And we obviously have doubts because Patrick Mahomes is on the other sidelines, and you don't want to be scarred by that. But, I mean, looking back now with the benefit of hindsight, it was over once Cooper DeJean had that pick six. At 17-0, they had no chance of coming back. They were dead.
Well, and honestly, the score doesn't do it justice. Obviously, those points they got at the end, but even if it were 40-6, which is what I really feel like the game was, that still didn't do it justice. The Eagles still won by more than that, it felt like. And you think about it, 95 points from this Eagles team the last two games, a plus 70 differential in the playoffs. Like, the two biggest games of the year, we saw the Eagles play their two best games. It's just, this doesn't happen to us. This doesn't, obviously championships don't happen to us. Super Bowls, we got one. It was this magical out of nowhere ride, but like, being like an all-time great team. And I said it last night and I feel it even more today. Like, I think this, for one season, obviously there's the Brady's and the Mahomes over years, and we'll see what happens with Hurts over years, but we can talk now about that. But like, to have an all-time great team for a season, like, that's something that I was 1.5 years old for the 82, 83 Sixers or whatever. I was less than one. I was like 9, so it's like, I know they were an all-time great team. I didn't see it. I've never seen it. And for us, people who love sports so much that we make it our lives every day, like I love greatness in sports. I love appreciating that and watching it. And for our team to be that, to be able to be talked about as like an all-time great team, man, and not just a magical run and a can't believe it happened, but like this team was one of the greatest teams we've ever seen in the NFL salary cap era, and certainly the greatest Philadelphia team you and I have seen in our lifetimes. Like, it doesn't even feel real coming out of my mouth. This doesn't happen to us.
I mean, the fact that there's only one other team that you even put in that discussion, right? And that was something I think the afternoon show did last week. Like, it's the 83 Sixers or this team. Like, that's it. Like, that's the discussion.
4 Hall of Famers out of the starting 5. I mean,
Yeah, and Bobby Jones coming off the bench, too. Like,
they beat the Kareem and Magic Lakers. They swept them.
And, like, that's it. Like, that's the discussion. Unless you want to go back and talk about, like, the 1929 80s.
Yeah, or like the 67 Sixers with Wilt. Like, who knows, But,
like, in the last 50
I
years.
heard the 1947 Eagles were pretty great,
Yeah. And, like, that's just not a discussion. And I think you mentioned, like, it got to be 40-22. To me, like, the biggest indication of how dominant they were last night, the Chiefs had 38 yards in the first 40 minutes of the game.
Well, you texted us. You're like, hey, like the record for least yards in a Super Bowl is 119 on the table.
Yeah.
They weren't for garbage time. And again, like that worthy touchdown, the first one to get at 6, like even then, like it was feeling like, are we going to get the first shutout in Super Bowl history? Like at a certain point in the game, to your point, because we were all, even at halftime, we're like our brain knows that this is probably over, but we can't let ourselves feel that or whatever. But as the third quarter progressed and we started to get to the fourth quarter, it really was a shift where it's like, okay, so we're not talking about winning this anymore. We're talking about an all-time great performance. Let's shut them out. Let's dominate them. Let's like bury their souls. And like, again, 40-22, like the Eagles won by so much more. Like 18 points. They won by 18 points and it feels like it was double that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's going to be compared to Patrick Mahomes' Super Bowl loss to Tampa Bay.
Totally.
Like, I thought the Eagles were far more dominant in this game.
And also,
than
5 years
Tampa
into
Bay
his
was
career,
in that
after
one.
he's already won 3 Super Bowls and he's shown what he could do at the highest level, to do it now. It's a different thing to do it back in 2020 when he's still like on the come up. And I know he'd won one, but like it wasn't the same Patrick Mahomes that it is now, the legend and all that stuff, what he's been through as a player, like the experience. It's so much more impressive to do this to Patrick Mahomes 5 years later.
Yeah, and I think like what you brought up about, just how I felt in the second half, I think it was almost shock. Like your brain doesn't know how to.
Still shock. I still feel that way.
You just don't know how to compute it. Like they won, and like I don't know. Like I didn't scream, I didn't yell. Like it was just like, oh, that happened, and I still kind of feel that way. Like the emotions there, I feel it, but it's just it wasn't an outcome that I was expecting. Right? Like you play that game in your head a million times before it happens. And I think about like, man, what if Jalen Hurts has the ball down 4 with 2 minutes ago? What if Jake Elliott's lining up for a 45-yard field goal to win the game as time expires? And no point in my head did I think like, what am I going to do if the game's over with 20 minutes to go?
What are we going to do if we're just like,
what are we going to do if Patrick Mahomes just happens to lay an egg for the first time in his NFL career?
And they made him lay an egg. The Eagles made him lay an egg. Unbelievable too. Like it'll be cool as it goes, as time progresses over this week and more little things leak out. And, like going back to 2017, we didn't even know about the Philly part of the Philly special until the mic'd up stuff came out. Like we learn new things as that. We're going to get that stuff as it happens. But one of the stats that stuck out to me last night, the fact that the Eagles didn't blitz one time in the football game, man. And you think about 2 years ago and you think about, and I know the field played a role, but you think about that, 70 sacks, third most ever, that defense, sack. And the fact that, again, the field, but they were able to do nothing. And this defense, which we didn't talk about the defensive line in those terms, like
talk about the secondary. We talked about the secondary leading up to the game.
And they had 6 sacks and were the dominant reason they won the game along with Hurts. Like it's miraculous, man.
It's just like, it's hard to put into words. And DeCamera said it this morning. It's really hard to put into words what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, it feels inadequate. Joe, I love that you use the word. I feel inadequate to express in words what this feels like. And it's such a perfect way. Because again, I go back to like, how do you express that yesterday and today and Friday will be one of the greatest days of our lives for millions and millions of people? Like that's such a powerful thing, man.
And I was thinking about this last night as I was driving home because Mary was asking me, like, as we were driving, how does this feel different than 2017? I was thinking about it because, like, when the Phillies won in 2008, that was the first world championship of my lifetime. It was the
Same.
first one for the city in 25
25
years. Like, that
years,
was a
yeah.
huge thing. And then when the Eagles won in 2017, it's the first one,
For Super Bowl.
for Super Bowls, the first football championship in 57 years. There are generations of fans waiting for it. And I remember, like, you feel happy for those people, right? Like your parents, your grandparents, who probably maybe reached an age where they thought, I might never see one.
And you think about the people who didn't make it,
Yeah.
who you lost along the way, who never got to see it,
And
you
for
know?
me, like last night, I was happy, but I almost felt just as happy or maybe even more happy for the players on the team. Like
Mhm.
for people like Jalen Hurts or Zach Bond, or,
Nick Sirianni,
you
the
don't
whole
want to
thing.
list everybody and become a Jason Kelsey cliche because he kind of ruined
But
that
it
bit.
deserves it. This
But
group
like that's
deserves
what it
it.
is. Like that's how I felt. Like I'm happy for Jalen Hurts. Like that picture of him like slumped against the
One of the
wall.
coolest pictures in Philadelphia Eagles history with the Lombardi between his legs, smoking the cigar, just
It's up there with
soaking
like
it
the
in.
Jordan crying over the trophy
Totally.
after
It's
his dad
exactly what I
died.
thought about.
Kobe crying over the trophy. Like that's what it reminded me. Like I'm happy for him for everything he's gone through, everything Nick Sirianni's gone through. Like you can go down the list.
I
Like
mean, how about Vic Fangio has been a coach for 38 years,
yeah,
almost my whole life longer than you've been alive. He's been a coach in the NFL. And last night was the first time he won a Super Bowl.
yeah,
Like,
and
think
like
about
just
that.
the organization, the fact that the first one is going to be unforgettable. This one will be too. But the fact that now you can't say it's a fluke,
Totally.
I think it's the biggest thing for the fan base. Is like before 2017, everyone knows the taunts you heard, right? You don't have one, and then when they got one, well, it was a fluke. Like you can't repeat that. And honestly, for Jalen Hurts, for me last night watching the game and watching it again when I got home, the most impressive thing is he played like Jalen
He
Hurts.
was
Like
awesome.
the way Nick Foles played in Super Bowl 52, like that was a once in a lifetime
That was
performance.
not Nick Foles. That was
That's not
that
repeatable, but
yeah.
the way Jalen Hurts played last night, we've seen him have that game, like
And
220
he's
yards.
26,
Yeah,
man.
like he
And the
didn't play
blitz
out of his
stuff.
mind. He
Did you
didn't
hear
do
the stuff the
ridiculous
Chiefs
things.
players last night talking about how Jalen had was all over their blitz schemes and was like way ahead of stuff, and that he totally threw them off their game. And this is the first year he was doing that
Well,
stuff.
did you hear Chris Jones during the week what he said about Steve Spagnuolo and
Yeah.
said they had a WTF moment? Like you have no idea what he's going to bring to the table. Like it's going to be amazing. Still waiting for it.
Yeah, buddy.
If that's what it
Well,
was, like my
at
God,
least they still have the having given up a 100-yard rusher in the playoff stat. That stat hits a lot less hard today, doesn't it?
I do feel a little bad for Saquon Barkley.
I do, except for the fact that look, he broke Terrell Davis' record. He had all-time great season, and he got to win a Super Bowl. Like I think for Saquon,
Yeah, like I don't think he feels bad.
It's just it's more that I feel bad for the narrative. Like it felt like the narrative should have gone a different way last night, but it's almost more perfect in that way that the narrative all season was this Saquon thing and this special season, and that they showed in the biggest of games that even without that thing that had been the theme of the season, they still kick ass. Like it's almost more poetic in a way that they were able to do it a completely different way in that last game.
I mean, it's just a testament to Howie Roseman and the
Oh
team
my God,
that he
dude,
built. I mean, the fact that you can go into a game where pretty much the analysis in going into the game was like, well, if Saquon rushes for 200 yards, they win. If he doesn't, they lose. The fact that they had a roster and they had an offense in place to where he touched the ball, I think 31 times and got 90 yards. Like they tried to give him the ball, it didn't work. It didn't matter. They still put up 40 points. They still dominated. Jalen Hurts was incredibly efficient. I think if you look at EPA per dropback, it was one of the most efficient performances in Super Bowl history.
Wow.
By a quarterback.
Wow.
I mean, just like what they did, like just no missteps the entire way. Like he threw an interception, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. Yeah, but the 3-yard line, because the defense shut it down, and the defense, especially after that first drive and the bad call on that 4th and 2, which by the way, like that's a amazing throw by Hurts that didn't even count, But like for them to just come out and shut it down and then turn it over and get the touchdown, and then turn it over again and just be all over Mahomes. Like it was pretty neat going in because like we haven't had the best defense in football since I was a kid. Since the 90s. Eagles 91, those groups like, Seth and Reggie and Clyde and EA, shout out Hall of Fame. Like we have not had a literal, they're the best defense in football since then. And for it to obviously come off of last year with the worst defense and what Vic did and all that, but then for this group to not just be the best defense all year, but then to go to the Super Bowl and give their best performance of the season against the best quarterback in the sport, one of the best quarterbacks ever. Like, it's so like satisfying and gratifying. And it feels like it just like enhances this like Philly's always been a defense town. Like I know the sport has changed, but like when you think of Philadelphia, you think of defense, you think of physical, tough, smash mouth football. And like for this defense to go into this game and do that, it feels like it validates this whole like that group, their historic place, what they mean. It just I was so happy. And the youngest defense in football, no big deal. And then like Brandon Graham, how about that? I mean, the fact that Brandon Graham's out there, 13 snaps, making plays, like it's just like it couldn't have gone better, man. Like we couldn't have like planned this or made it work any better than it actually did.
Does it validate WIP that they won the Super Bowl by running the ball and playing elite defense?
It's unbelievable, right?
They got elite linebacker play. They got an elite running back. They pounded the rock. I mean, like that's it, and that's what they did. I mean, the love affair between this city and this team obviously has gone on forever, but like this is a team I think everyone likes. Like not only is it just
big time,
unbelievable group of players, but it's unbelievable like group of people and like the way they play. And I know Nick Sirianni rubs people the wrong way, but guess what? When you win, you can do that. And people still like you.
I love him with all
and
my
like
heart.
It'll get annoying because at some point I'm sure they'll lose some games and people will probably turn on him again. But I mean, for Nick Sirianni, like the validation that he must feel now, and I'm just watching his morning after press conference. Definitely looks like he had a pretty wild night.
I hope so.
He had AJ Brown's high school football jersey
Mike
on.
Good party. So,
and it had his hat a little too low to cover his eyes. I mean, just the way they played last night, like the validation that all those guys feel, because even up until this season, like after week 4, people were doubting him and Jalen and this defense and everything. And could they get it done? And now we look ahead to 2025. They're the best team in football.
I mean, both those guys, Sirianni and Hurts, are off to, and then there's a long way to go, but off to Hall of Fame starts to their careers. And to your point, I think it's really important because one of the things that for me still makes 2017 so special is the group of guys. I think it's the most likable, especially getting to know some of these guys after, and like the Kelseys and the Grahams and the Foles, like they're just as wonderful human beings.
And they're still around. Like a lot of them were like back in like playoff games and stuff.
And Torrey Smith, they're all there and they're all like wonderful human beings. And Malcolm Jenkins and all. And then that year and the group and the love and the whole thing, like it really like elevated that first Super Bowl for me. And the way I think about it, like it made it more magical and more meaningful that it was this group of guys that we all love and can be so proud of. And I'm not saying 2022 wasn't a group we liked. It was. But the changes from 2022 to now are what took it to that next level, with bringing Saquon in, with Zach Bond, with like Nolan Smith stepping up, with Nakobe Dean being a part of it, like with all this stuff where it's like, these are all like amazing dudes and awesome guys and people who are so easy to root for by the way they go about their business, the way they carry themselves. And like, I think it's such a great point, and it really does enhance this, I think, in that like it's not just the laundry, because we will root for the laundry no matter what. And we've had teams where there are guys where like, okay, like to have it be a group that we love so much and that those guys mean that much to us on top of the team and the achievement meaning so much, like it just makes it that much better.
Yeah, and you have championship teams where maybe it's kind of like a 1-year thing and it's a kind of a blip, but I mean, this team seems to be starting a trend.
They've already been to 2. Think about it. I mean, we talked about going in, but Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, the only head coach quarterback to go to 2 Super Bowls for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean,
it's already happened.
Like Joe laid it out this morning when Don Smolenski called in. Like the fact that they've been to the playoffs 7 out of the last 8 years, the fact that they've won the NFC 3 out of the last 8 years. Now they've won 2 Super Bowls in the last 8 years. I mean, like the idea that the Eagles have had this success, and like there was a time where we thought the Andy Reid era from 2001 to 04, like that was it. Like that was maybe the best we could ever do. And we've obviously surpassed that now, and what they've done and what Howie Roseman and Jeff Lurie from the top down have created. It's just like it's hard to put into words that a franchise like that's so well run is here, because like I think in Philadelphia
that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. Like we look at past ownership groups, and you just kind of have to look across the street at like what the Sixers are doing right now. Like we've never had like an ownership group like this who really buys in, who's figured out how to create a franchise that is the gold standard.
And to mention Howie, we probably haven't mentioned enough. I don't think there's any of you, like there's only, him and Jeffrey, but like, Howie Roseman is the person who is most responsible in the city of Philadelphia for us having 2 Super Bowl championships. Like he put together an amazing group of guys, like we talked about, had 2 brilliant off seasons in 16 and 17 to lead into that. and won a Super Bowl and then tore it all down, built an entirely new roster except for Lane, BG, and the snapper and the kicker, a whole new coaching staff, and has gone back to 2 Super Bowls and won another. Like, and obviously coming off one of the great off seasons we've ever seen a general manager have, not just in Philly, in sports.
You think it's a little ridiculous he didn't win Executive of the Year?
It's
like an absolute travesty.
Absurdity.
I mean, people now talk about him dominating the offseason.
The offensive player of the year and a defensive player of the year candidate, much less all the other guys they brought in the draft, the Bectons, the whole thing. It's just like Jeffrey and Howie deserve so much credit for bringing this franchise to the point where, to your point, what you just listed, the 3 Super Bowls in 7 years, the 2 championships, the playoffs in all those years except one. Like, it's not Mahomes, Brady yet, but it's like the start of something. And I did the whole thing going in. I'm happy I did, because I was focusing on the game, but like, I was like, no dynasty talk, no talk about what's after this. Like, let's win the Super Bowl. Now we can talk about that, because we'll see what happens. But like, this group isn't going anywhere, at least the core parts of it. And they've proven that they can do this, especially the coach and the quarterback at the top. Like, we'll see what happens. Nothing is, we know how hard this is. Again, it's only the 3rd time in my life we're talking about winning a championship. But like, what they've already done and where they're going, like, it's already the greatest era of Eagles football in our lives already, in the history of the franchise, at least since 47, 48 or whatever you want to say. Like, it's so special where we're at and where we're going.
And just the way you feel, like, even if something happens, right? If 2025 doesn't work out the way expected, right? If they have injuries, if they're fatigued,
which wouldn't be a shock,
which isn't crazy, but like, do you feel like a lack of confidence that Howie Roseman will figure it out? Like, if they have a down year,
all of them, Nick and Jalen, again, like, think about the fact, you want to talk about a down year. We just saw the worst collapse in the history of the franchise last year, and they came back and gave us the best team we've ever seen.
After losing 2 potential Hall of Famers.
4-13 last year, and I still believe that they can come back and do it, because I just saw it.
Yeah, like that peace of mind that you have just with the organization, with the guys in that building, is incredibly rare. Like, it really is.
It's certainly in Philadelphia.
Especially
it's
here.
Particularly rare. All right.
What are we going to complain about now?
No, nothing.
Phils?
This is joy. Yeah, well, at least, dude, I'm telling you, the Phils are going to get such a, the Phillies should be thanking the Eagles, because after the, declining 3 straight playoff finishes, that, like, we're just going to be less mad at them. Like, I will be, like, I know I will be. Like, this is going to lift me up. It will lift all of us up. And that's why it's so freaking amazing. It's like, it's just such a big thing for all of our lives and our happiness. Drew from Westchester, the call he had where, he talked about how this can lift people up when things aren't good, or when you're going through things or whatever. This can lift you up. It's not a magic elixir, but it can lift you up, and it can change lives, and it can change attitudes and the way we go about our business on a daily basis, and how you treat people, and all these things that are, the effects of something that means so much to this city happening. And it's just so cool, man. I'm so excited to revel in this. I'm so excited to like soak this in, enjoy this, like, feel it, because, it's exciting that the future is bright, but we know that this is something to cherish, because we have
don't
not
skip
had
the celebration.
Yeah,
let's get to a parade.
Friday, baby. All right. So tomorrow, 10 a.m., the return.
The return of Elliott Shore-Parks.
Return of Elliott Shore-Parks. So it feels like it's been away for like a year. Very excited to get in studio.
I miss him. I'm texting him like a lot more now, just because I miss talking to him.
I can't wait to hug him. Like, I'm so excited. He was a star walking through last night. That was so fun to watch. But seriously, like, we're not going anywhere. We'll be back tomorrow. Day 36, by the way, Jay Ajayi Day.
Yeah. Did you realize he came back in 2019? Yes, he played 3 years here, had 3 numbers.
I did not realize that.
You were 36 in 2017. Yeah. I think you were 28 and 26.
So the Super Bowl is the one they only remember because I've watched it so many times. It's so exciting to have another game I can watch all the time.
Also, Rudy Ford, number 36.
That's
all-time great special teamer.
Yeah, that's a classic one. We'll be back tomorrow. So we're just going to keep this streak going. 37 days. Why the hell not? Obviously, we're going to get you set for the parade. Friday, we'll react to it. Saturday show, we're here. We're celebrating. I'm so happy, Doc. I love everyone. I love all of you so much. And I'm so grateful that we all got to do this together. you know, this run and the daily pods and all that and this community that's sprung up from this pod, like it makes it so much more special to get to celebrate it with all of you and to have the callers on the show be the part of the soundtrack of the Super Bowl for me and the Super Bowl run. And I'll remember all the calls and all the moments and all that. So thank you. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of Tucker's heart, Elliot's heart, like there would be nothing without you guys. Like this is all of us. And last night we got to have the greatest Eagles game we've ever seen. How about that, man? You got a final thought other than we won the Super Bowl? Because that's pretty much
no. I mean, like, what else is there?
What else is there is we're going to be back tomorrow to talk about the Eagles being Super Bowl champions, dude. All right. I love you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. Day 37 coming tomorrow. Just
Sean Considine.
Ooh, that's the big one, you know? Yeah.
I want to get it out of the way.
Yeah, I do. Hug your mom, hug your dad, hug your family, hug your kids. Like, I got to watch Eagles win the Super Bowl with my daughter last night. Like, this is awesome, guys. This is awesome.
Did she have her ice cream yet?
She every day this week. Lock it in. She was maybe more excited about that than the win, but she wouldn't have gotten it without the win. So I'll keep reminding her that. All right. Thank you again, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm so excited. I love you guys. I love you.
Love you.
All right. We'll talk.